I have a story to tell you. It'll take a few minutes, but it is urgently important. 225 years ago, when Thomas Jefferson defeated John Adams in the 1800 presidential election, Adams was not happy. Concerned with what Jefferson would do to the government, Adams and Congress passed a law that created new courts and added judges. It was an attempt by Adams and his party to stack the courts before Jefferson could do much damage. But Jefferson and his crew had a solution. Even though the new judges were approved by the Senate, their positions would not be official until their commissions were delivered by the Secretary of State. So when Jefferson took office, his Secretary of State, James Madison, simply refused to issue the commissions. A man who had been appointed Justice of the Peace for the District of Columbia petitioned the Supreme Court to compel Madison to deliver the documents. That man was named William Marbury, and thus the most famous constitutional case in our history was initiated, the case of Marbury versus Madison. To our eyes, the case seems simple. Congress passed a clear law. The executive is bound by both the Constitution and democratic principles to carry out the law that the people had passed. Couldn't the Supreme Court just order the president to have his Secretary of State deliver the commissions? Here's the thing. The Supreme Court does not have an army. I'll say that again. The Supreme Court does not have an army. It has no enforcement power once it hands down a decision. So what was the court to do? If they came in like a bull in a china shop and started issuing blunt orders, they risked Jefferson refusing to obey them. In such a case, the country would surely fall, because without the court to check an executive, Jefferson would be a dictator. On the other hand, if the court rolled over and became Jefferson's lapdog, it would be a Supreme Court in name only, and we would still become a de facto dictatorship. The Chief Justice at the time, William Marshall, came up with a brilliant solution. The court held that one, the court did have the power to review all of the actions of the other branches of government, but two, Jefferson still won in this case because the provision of the law that enabled Marbury to bring the case directly to the Supreme Court was unconstitutional. With this political masterstroke, all worries of a United States dictatorship were allayed, and we had confirmed the essential role of the Supreme Court's judicial review power once and for all. Until last week, that is. Last week, 225 years after Marbury versus Madison, the sitting vice president of the United States said that the president does not have to obey the Supreme Court. Let that sink in. The president wants to seize tax money that Congress collected and give it to Elon Musk. No problem. The president wants to mandate that all school children be taught that there are only two genders and that the United States never practiced slavery and that liberal political ideas are evil? Sure. And here's the point of all of this for this audience. If the president and his Project 2025 cronies want to establish the evangelical church of the United States of America, outlaw the practice of all other religions, and ban shows like this one, there will be no one who can stop him. I would say that we're in uncharted waters, but we aren't. We have seen this before in places like Germany under the Nazis or during the intellectual purge of the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia. And we're seeing it now in places like Russia, Hungary, Venezuela, all places who recently, very recently, had presidents declare that they don't need to obey the courts. Sound familiar? They had legislative lapdogs then hand them the reins of power. If you are uncomfortable about the prospect of a theological dictatorship in the United States, please take action. Do what you can to educate your friends and colleagues about what we are facing. Volunteer or donate to organizations that will fight against this, like the ACLU or the Freedom from Religion Foundation. In short, do something or forever be forced to hold your peace. If, on the other hand, you think the United States should be a Christian country, call us, because the show starts now.
Welcome, everyone. Today is February 16th, 2025. I'm your host, Secular Rarity, and joining me today is the Cross Examiner. What's up, man? How are you?
Hi, SR. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I like that you are not just a Cross Examiner. You know, you
yes.
are the one and only. There is no other one out there because of litigious reasons.
Yes, exactly. I need a trademark after
yes,
it, right?
Right. No, man, I loved that. I loved that start. Because I just really love history, and American history is something that I've always been really fascinated by.
Mm-hmm.
But also because there is this huge obvious overlap with the mission here on this show and of the ACA, right?
Absolutely.
Like this idea that religious beliefs should not be what governs the people of a nation, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of scary right now, man. It does really feel like that core principle of this country is being attacked.
I agree entirely. It's the minute that the vice president said that, my first thought was every single headline for the next 4 months needs to be this. It is the most threatening thing an elected official has ever said regarding the existence of our country in my lifetime, for sure. And I think throughout history, I haven't found any other instance of a sitting president or vice president suggesting, you know what, that Supreme Court, they just get in the way. Why don't we just do away with it? We can ignore it, and then we can do whatever we want. And I don't think that the current administration, like the main people, are hyper religious, but I believe they know that the people that brought them to power and who populate their administration now are all Project 2025 people, which are the Heritage Foundation, which one of their planks is we want a Christian national government. So he is swimming in these waters, this administration, with people who the instant somebody says, we're not going to obey the Supreme Court on this particular issue, they are going to do what we've seen in Texas and Louisiana and Ohio and all these places where they're going to post the 10 Commandments in schools and start having Bibles in the classroom and start having prayer sessions in schools. It is happening. And before this recent election, I would have said I was being alarmist, but now I am going to be talking about this and only this, because this is it, folks. This is when they tell you what they're going to do, believe them. And they've told us what they want to do. They want to do away with the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that it's attacking, which is this three branches of government. This idea of not only separation of church and state, but the separation of the powers themselves. Why is that so critical? Like, what is the, look, I mean, there's some of us out here, it's been a while. We're getting old. We forgot those civics lessons from high school. Like what is the value of having this one branch of government whose job it is to interpret the meanings of the laws, this one branch of government who puts them into action, this one that makes them? Why is that something like that the founding fathers even cared about?
That is a great question. And it would take a long time to answer it. The short answer is the people who created the Constitution just came from a dictatorship, and they saw that, oh, you created this parliament, but when the parliament told the king to do something that the king didn't like, he could just ignore parliament. And as I said, the Supreme Court doesn't have an army. Well, Congress doesn't have an army. Congress pays for the army, so they've got a little bit of power. They could stop taxing and then starve the army so there's no army. But we don't want to get to that point as a country where we're like, oh, the army is loyal to the president, so Congress needs to go into hiding and the Supreme Court doesn't meet anymore. That's literally what we see in Venezuela, right? That the way it started in Venezuela was this particular nonprofit organization is counter-revolutionary. This is counter against the government. We're going to ban them for the good of the country. And everybody's like, sure. These guys are bad. And then they did that 3,528 more times. They banned all nonprofits in the country. Then they took over the newspapers and the radio and the TV and the internet. And then they did away with the courts. And that's what you see. So it's a death by 1,000 cuts. This particular cut they're proposing is pretty bad. As far as the balance goes, you need somebody to be the referee, right? The Constitution's clear. Article 3, Section 2, the courts have the power to adjudicate anything arising under the Constitution, under the laws passed by Congress and in treaties, and then when states sue each other and when people sue states. But the big three are the Constitution, the laws passed by Congress, and treaties. That's the Supreme Court. It doesn't say, and this is how the enforcement shall take place. It just doesn't say that. So the reasoning has always been, and this is what we call statutory interpretation rule, you never assume that a thing is put in place by a legislative body without having a purpose. So if it didn't have the power to enforce and people were able to ignore it, then the argument is all of Section 3 of the Constitution is meaningless. So obviously the founders wanted the opinions of the court to be enforced. Why have a court if you didn't have to obey it? That's the logic. Right. And that's what Marbury versus Madison settled. Everybody agreed with that. Everybody knew that going into Marbury versus Madison, but it was a moment where the country held its breath because they're like, and literally, this is a brand new country. It's Jefferson, right? We have Washington, Adams, Jefferson. It's only the third president. And he could have said no. And even in Washington's time, people were saying, you don't have to get elected. You're great. We should keep you on. You should be our new king. And he in his most famous writing, go read it, in the time where he says, I'm going to step down, his speech to the country lays it out. Hey, transition of power, honoring the Constitution. These are what's important. And so they wisely had this court to say, when Congress and the president team up to do something unconstitutional, we need to be able to say no. And that has always gotten in the way of conservatives because they're always the one that want to keep religion in schools, keep the schools segregated, right? Yeah. And it's always been the court. If you're alive as long as I am, you remember the images of the governor of Alabama bringing out the National Guard to try to stop two little black girls from attending a school. That was another moment of the Supreme Court doesn't have an army. Is the president going to send in his army to actually do something? And he did. But that was another time where the president could have been like, we're going to ignore Brown versus Board of Education. Yeah. So this is yet another test, and it's very real. And this time, because of the nature of this administration, it's even more impactful for people who are non-Christian. And I'm talking to you, if you're Muslim, you're Jewish, you're Buddhist, you're atheist, whatever you may be, you've already felt it for the last 10 years. It's going to get worse if we don't really empower the people who can influence congressmen and those in power to say, you don't want to place your money on this guy because this guy is trying to do away with our entire country. And hopefully we'll win. So do something, educate your friends. A lot of people are not aware that J.D. Vance even said that. So
yeah, there's a lot of great ways you can get involved. And I'm sure if you're here, whether you're a longtime subscriber to the channel, you've already liked and you've got your comment ready for after, when the video is posted, or you just randomly stumbled on the channel. First off, hey, how's it going? Hope everything's cool in your area. We're a little concerned about the Christian nationalism that seems to be extremely pushing their views in the government. We'd like to push back against that a little bit. If you disagree with that, by the way, we're a call-in show, so hit us up sometime. We got people here that'll happily give you responses. I promise you. Cross and I, we can talk about this for hours. But we are here to take some calls, and we have some good calls. But before we go into that, let me tell you a couple of things. Like, the Atheist Experience is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. Love, love, love it. Also, we have a couple of super chats. I am going to go ahead and read out because I am seeing a few of these stack up. And look, I don't know if you guys know about what's going on. Look, I'll tell you guys a little bit later, but some of y'all are already in the know, and you know about this weekend and what we are already up against, okay? So we are fighting a hard battle here in terms of these super chats. So again, if you're already in the know, go ahead and let other people in the chat know. Do your brother and sister a favor. But I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail later. We got 199 from Jonathan France letting us know cubes. Just want your weekly reminder. Your weekly reminder, folks. We've got
it's a Kubert fan, obviously.
Yeah, obviously, very much into it. Godwin 499 saying, "Thank you for what you do." Well, thank you. We really appreciate it. We all enjoy being here, and that's why we do it. And like Graham was saying, it's important. Mm-hmm. So. Carlos Srouer, I probably said that wrong, has been a member for 6 months and has sent 500 Argentine pesos, which is awesome because we actually only accept Argentine pesos. I don't know if you guys knew that, but all of our money gets
sent
converted.
A memo.
Yeah, so thank you for doing that, Carlos. It was a super sticker that was a pair riding a firework rocket disappearing away before bursting in the sky. I don't know if I needed to read that, but I just really liked it.
I think it's better off that you did.
I know it's so much nicer. Blind Limey.
Speaking of fruit, a pear right? And Blind Limey.
We got Blind Limey, a member for 2 years, $5 freaking saying, "I'm a disabled socialist atheist immigrant. I double dog dare the Christo-fascists in DC to make a martyr of me. No quarter asked, none given." I love you, Blind Limey. You are always great, man. I am so happy.
And if a Limey, a Brit can get that worked up.
Right.
Surely we can manage some.
I feel like I just want now. Here's what I want. Okay, next time I see you, Jamie, we need to like get you in a robe with like a lightsaber. Like, if you strike me down now, I'll become more powerful. Anyway, I don't know. We might have just gotten struck for that. I'm so sorry. So sorry, Greg. I apologize. We got one more, 199 from Godwin saying flabbergasted. I like that.
Is he flabbergasted about clues? Wait, no, that was France. Godwin said, "Thank you for what you do," and then flabbergasted. Okay. Yeah.
I'm not positive.
I think he's giving us clues as we go. There's going to be more donations with one word, and then we can put it all together.
Oh, that would be fun. And at the end of it, like it's a full sentence or something. I like that. Keep doing that. Keep us on our toes. We've got some calls that are stacking up, and I am freaking excited for it. But real quick, we are going to go through the question of the week from last week. So last week, we gave you this question, and it was complete the answer. If God is so smart, why hasn't it blank? And here are the top 3 favorite answers as chosen. I have been told by Johnny himself. So if you have any complaints whatsoever, you can email him directly.
Yes.
We've got number 3, Miranda Rensberger saying,
"Yay.
If God is so smart, why doesn't it give its apologists better arguments?" I mean, so freaking true, honestly.
To take a moment on that one, we get so many calls from people who have said, "I prayed and God told me to call you," and then they fall apart, and I'm like, God, like, let's assume it's true that God told you to call, and then you fall apart on this show. Who should be learning a lesson from that one?
And so the problem with this, right, is that it is actually kind of biblical. There's a bunch of stories where like the Israelites obey God entirely, and then they just get screwed over. Like they just get the crap kicked out of them. And it's like, it's so silly. It's honestly, whatever. But yes, I agree. They should have better arguments. Number 2, the Lisette Faith says, if God is so smart, why does he tell people in the Bible not to build their structures on sand, yet have such poor foundations for his own existence? Ouch. Damn. That stung. I know.
That was really good.
Yeah. I was like, at first I was like, man, where are we going with this, with the sandcastles and stuff? But no, that came through pretty hard. Like,
right.
Like that, Lisette. Then we've got number 1 from Chuck Gatos saying, if God is so smart, why doesn't the book of Genesis start more scientifically, such as everything that begins to exist has a cause? Yeah. Very good question. Very good question. Very good question. Thank you for that. I like that. Well, look, I loved those answers, but if you didn't, just know that you can absolutely post under this video after it is posted and yell at Johnny P. Angel himself. Or you don't have to, or you can tell him that he did a good job. Or here's another suggestion. What if you answered this question?
Okay.
So I'm going to give this to you first, Cross, and then we're going to kick it off to our wonderful audience. Name an inappropriate time to claim God is in control?
I have two answers. A serious one and a less serious one. So the less serious one is when you're driving and you're a young single female and your car starts skidding on the ice and you take your hands off the wheel. Oh, wait, no, there's a song. Jesus, take the wheel. Okay. That song always bugged the hell out of me for that exact reason. That is the wrong time to say God is in control. Jesus, take the wheel.
That's true.
My serious answer for today's show is when you're voting.
Oh, yeah. It's also, I like that too. That is a good one. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, keep religion out of government. Pretty easy there. I'm on favor of that.
Yeah. Don't let your Bible tell you how to vote.
My answer is completely inappropriate, and I just don't know. I know. Like I know for a fact that it is wrong. And so I don't think I should say it. And I think I should just say that, all of our wonderful, wonderful audience members can come up with fantastic, fantastic answers. And we will be looking for them over the next week. And And if you do want to hear what my answer is,
I was going to suggest maybe they could suggest in super chats that you tell them.
Yeah. You know what? That's not a bad idea. If we get enough super chats, $10 or higher, I will tell you this inappropriate answer that I am confident will get me yelled at afterwards. I know it will. So yeah, I mean, just the first time. Just bring it on, guys. Bring on the super chats. But until then, we have some fantastic calls, and I want to go talk to these people because that's what we're here for, right? That is what we are doing.
That is true.
Let's go out to Mexico. We are going to talk with Ulrich. Him is saying that the expanding universe clearly confirms the Bible. Well, hey, Ulrich, you were talking with SR and Cross Examiner. What you got?
Hello. Yes, we observe the universe expanding, and then, but that's where we are at right now. But then the atheists conclude it has always been like that, which doesn't make sense. Then the universe goes back to be really small, the singularity, and then you have the Big Bang. I said, but why do we interpret stuff would always have been the same way it is right now?
Are you talking about the rate of expansion might have changed over time? Is that what you say? Like, what are you saying what do you think our position is as far as somebody who is not inserting God into this equation, as far as it always being the same? Because my understanding of the current Big Bang cosmology is we see that the universe is expanding. Physics says that once something's in motion, it tends to stay in motion until acted upon by an outside force. So if we assume nothing is acting on the universe, then you can rewind the tape and everything shrinks down to a singularity. So where in there are we messing up?
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of ridiculous to think the universe was once a singularity?
Maybe all of the math, all of the science that we use to have this talk right now, every bit of science we have to talk over the internet, to use GPS systems, all comes from the same math that shows that the universe used to be at a single point. It all ties together. It all predicts everything. It predicts gravitational lensing on stars. It predicts exactly where various objects are going to be in our solar system at any given time. It all works. So why do you think it's ridiculous? You're making a logical fallacy that everything that points to answer X points to answer X, but answer X is just I don't like it. It's an absurd result. Therefore, we must be wrong. What evidence do you have that it wasn't always expanding and didn't come from a singular point?
Look, you said we can't predict the future. Yes, but we cannot predict the past. We don't know what really happened millions of years ago.
Hold up. Ulrich, stop. Yeah, stop. Ulrich, hang on. Okay. Let's just talk like normal people. Okay. If you walk into your kitchen and there is like a burnt roast sitting on your stove and like, I don't know, a gallon of milk that's knocked over and like leaking on your floor. Like, you may not know every fucking single thing that happened in the last few minutes, but you have a decent fucking idea, my brother. I mean, tell me that I'm wrong with that.
Okay, but taking your example, let's say I come to my house.
Okay, so hang on. So stop, Ulrich. So stop. So stop. It sounded like you agreed with that statement, with that general concept. You agree that there actually 100% are methodologies for us to understand about the likelihood of events that have just occurred. And we can continue to do that way on down the chain. Funny enough, I'm just going to throw this cute little analogy out there. It's actually the same concept that we're doing when it comes to like DNA and evolution and stuff. If I can figure out how to, prove that I'm connected to my parents through that shit, eventually down the chain, we can find other common ancestors. It's the same thing, man. So like, why would you be so hardcore on this? We can't predict the past when like you absolutely do this on a regular basis, man. You just agreed to it. I mean, do you see where we're coming from? If we put a little bit of brain power to it, the ability for us to figure out how things were yesterday, 3 years ago, 3,000 years ago, like it is there. We can do it, right?
Yes, but not infinitely. And
okay.
Why?
Yeah.
Why not to infinity?
Right.
What changes? Big numbers shouldn't scare you.
Right.
Why not to 4 point whatever billion years ago or 13.5 billion years ago?
If it works for last week.
If I see, you know what air hockey is? Do you know what air hockey is? An air hockey table? I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes, I do.
if I'm looking at the air hockey table and I assume it's a frictionless surface and I see just for the last second, I see this puck moving across it at a certain speed, right? Let's say 1 meter a second, right? Or let's say 1 centimeter a second, right? I can safely assume, barring any other evidence, that 1 second ago, I know where it was 1 centimeter back, right? That's what we're talking about with the expanding universe. The physics says it's going to keep going until something changes it. So what you seem to want to insert is that hockey puck, we can't be sure that it was 1 centimeter back 1 second ago because God might have moved the hockey puck. That's what you're saying. God might have changed it. God might have made the hockey puck appear just now and then have it move so it looks like it was moving forever. Or the Big Bang didn't really happen. God just magicked it into existence to look like that it's always been expanding. Is that your argument?
It kind of is, yeah.
What evidence do you have that God magicked anything?
In the Bible, it says God is expanding the universe.
Okay,
Why should we listen to the Bible?
Yeah. Why is that important?
Because it confirms our observation that the universe is expanding.
We should listen. Let me understand your argument here. We should listen to it because it confirms what you want to have happen?
No, because it confirms what we observe, that the universe is expanding.
So the Spider-Man comic books observe that New York City existed 10 years ago. So we should listen to everything in the Spider-Man comic books as being true?
No, but we should listen to Spider-Man. That New York.
Okay.
No. But
Yeah,
I want to pass it to SR. But you just answered my question right there.
That's real important because here's my next question for you is it possible for a book to be correct on some things and be wrong on other things?
Of course.
Absolutely. So the mere fact alone, and I'm just granting you this, by the way, because I believe the verse that you're quoting is the one about God stretching out the heavens, which we can go down the etymology of all the words that they're using there. The scholars would say that it doesn't mean the thing you're saying, Ulrich, but let's just give it to you, brother.
Sure.
Like, if the Bible does actually say, hey, God is actually stretching out the universe and it's expanding in all directions at equal time at the speed of light, is it still possible that there are other things in the Bible that are flat out wrong? Is that even possible, Ulrich?
For a book to say something is correct and something is wrong, of course, that's possible.
Yeah, cool.
Could the question wasn't a book. Can the Bible be wrong about things?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question.
I don't believe so, no.
So
Okay,
that's
why do you believe that?
Yeah.
That's what we're interested in. Why
Yeah.
do you think that the Bible is 100% accurate?
Because it confirms everything we experience. And
So does the Spider-Man comic book. So does Harry Potter.
I've never seen Spider-Man.
So does Lord of the Rings. Anything that talks about a thing and then has mystical stuff, the real stuff is confirmed everywhere, right? And the mystical stuff is all made up, except for the Bible.
If you were just about to say, Ulrich, that you've never seen Spider-Man in the real world, like, please understand, you have to, especially after what Cross just said, like, you have to understand that our obvious response is going to be, yeah, man, that's kind of what we saying. You know, about this whole God and Jesus resurrection thing, you know, it's like, if that's what you're going to say, but here's really the thing, man. I think you've already done it. I think you already said it earlier. You just didn't use these exact terms, but what you said it's what we observe in the reality around us. It's what we go to the Bible and there's this verse and it says this thing. And then we look out in the world around us and, oh my gosh, there it is. That's called the correspondence theory of truth, right? It's basically saying that what we are getting at when we're saying something is the case, something actually exists in reality. What we're saying is that, like, yeah, we go out there and we experience it on a regular basis. And unfortunately, man, like this one really specific verse that still, I promise you, man, it's not me saying this, it's the literary scholars. It does not say the thing you are saying it says. But even if it did, man, this one verse in the Bible may have a slight correspondence to the world around us, but all of the most important things about the Bible do not. The idea of a mind existing outside of space-time, outside of the universe, having the ability to both interact in time and out of time, the resurrection of human beings. I mean, all of the most important stuff has none of the criteria that you yourself recognize as being necessary. So why believe the rest of it, man?
Because, forget, we have observed God. He came on earth as Jesus Christ and did miracles and rose from the dead.
What is your evidence to support that Jesus Christ lived on earth? What is your evidence?
I bet you I know.
All the witnesses and all the writings.
All the
witnesses. And where is that
Where
found?
are the witnesses?
Where is that found?
Wait a second.
Of course,
Ulrich, who wrote? Okay, so we know that the life of Jesus Christ is documented in the 4 Gospels. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Who wrote the Gospels?
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
That's who the traditionally those names are associated with those texts. Those are certainly not the names of the people who wrote those books. I'm talking about the real world human beings who wrote those 4 books. Who were they?
I believe they were Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Okay, so you are at loggerheads with all of Christian scholarship. If you go to the bookstore, open up a study Bible, people who publish the Bibles, and look at the beginning of the Gospels, it will say in most honest Bibles, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are ascribed to these books out of church tradition. These manuscripts are anonymous. We don't know who wrote them. Go look in your own Bible and see if it says that. Okay, well, there we go. Then I don't care about what you say either. I'm done. If you don't care what all of Christianity says and all of the study Bibles teach and what is taught in seminary school to every priest, every preacher, every Christian who has studied the history of the Bible, if you don't care about any of that and you just want to sit in your own fantasy land and stare at your navel and say, it makes me happy to believe that those stories were written by those people, even though every piece of evidence we have says that that is not true, then you are not a serious person and you do not care about truth. You are exactly the type of person who is creating all the problems in the world right now. You don't care about facts. You don't care about evidence. You don't care about truth. And you take that from your religion and it risks expanding outward to everything you do. And if you don't see that, I feel sorry for you, and I feel scared of the world that people like you will create.
Because I believe Luke was written briefly by Luke, I'm creating all the problems in the world. Is that what
I
you're saying?
genuinely am
You don't care
frustrated,
about
Ulrich.
engaging. Yeah, exactly.
I'm genuinely frustrated, okay? And here's why. I'm not even going to put you on mute, right? I really want to talk to you about this. There's no way in the fucking world that out of everything Cross-Examiner just said, that is what you got from it if you were being in the slightest charitable in this moment. If you genuinely are not concerned with what is happening in the world around you, if you don't give a flying fuck if you're correct or not, hey man, you know what? I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to twist your fucking arm. I'm not going to fucking fight you. I'm not going to waste any fucking time. I have people in my queue right now, some of which I have talked to before. I know they are here for a genuine discussion because I've had it before. So truly, man, I want to give you this opportunity because, like, I could be doing anything else with my time. All of the crew that is behind the scenes, all of the people that come together regularly to make this community possible, we could be doing anything else, man. And if you genuinely don't give a fuck, just say it right now. No worries, Ulrich. We'll let you go. You have a great day. But if you are interested in having this conversation, then this is exactly what we have to address. We have to address people that are just sitting there just going, well, fuck it. I don't give a shit what the science says. I don't give a damn what the scholars say. Like you do, because you wouldn't take your fucking car to some dickhead on the side of the road with a sign that says the end is near, bring me your trucks. Like you'd take it to a mechanic, you'd take it to somebody that is an expert. So let's take a second. We'll all take a little breath. Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, Ulrich, do you want to keep talking about this, or do you really not care about whether things are true and whether you believe things that are actually in the world around you? What do you want to do here?
I do care about things that are true. For example,
Okay.
John says in his gospel.
So hold up, stop, Ulrich. Because this is a really easy question. This is a really easy question. And I'll go ahead and tell you where I got the answer. I got the answer from all of my religious friends. All of my religious friends have answered this correctly. Let's see if you can also do the same. Given the claim you just made, giving a shit about truth, I believe you. I think you're an honest person. I think you're a good person at heart. So I believe that you're going to do this. Ready? Name any instance in the Gospels where it says, I, the name of the individual, saw and witnessed these things happen. All I want is that, a verse. If you can give me the verse, that'd be great. Where in the Gospels does it say that?
At the end of the Gospel of John, it says that.
And what's the verse? What's the verse? I'll read it out now because I know that's wrong. I know you are wrong and you are purposefully being dishonest. So what's the fucking verse?
Look, I had Isaiah prepared.
What's the verse?
Chapter, verse.
What's the verse?
It's a very simple question.
Yes,
it's a very, very simple question. And let me give you a piece of advice, Ulrich. As somebody who has cross-examined people, the minute you don't answer the question, you appear very deceitful to the jury. You appear as if you are uncertain. You appear as if you are lying. And right now, the answer is very simple. And if you need just a minute to look it up, great. But all that SR asked was, give me the chapter and verse that says that. And you started talking about, listen, blah, 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 blah. When it's a simple answer and you don't answer it, there's but one conclusion. You don't know or you're lying. So let's give you one more chance. Can you give us the chapter and verse that SR was asking about?
What you got?
Okay, the chapter is John 21. I'm just reading through it, but I don't find the verse right now.
Okay, so I'll read it to you. Do you want me to? Because I can do it. You said it was the last verse. The last verse, I'll just
No,
double,
I didn't
triple
say
check.
what the last
I'll
verse
just
was.
double, triple check, Ulrich. You can be a big boy.
You can wait.
On
Oh, you need to
chapter
check.
21, John chapter 21, as you said, I'm just going to double, triple check. That appears to be the last chapter, like you agreed to. The last verse is 25.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to say Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them are written down, I suppose that even the whole world would not have room for the books that would be written.
Isn't that beautiful? That's real.
It's fucking not. It is
not
absolutely
what you
not.
s-
It is
it's
not. It
Not
is
what
not
you
beautiful.
said it was. You said that this chapter and verse would be somebody attesting to being an eyewitness. And that's what SR is getting at.
Mhm.
Because your original justification for believing the Bible, outside of, hey, every time it claims a thing, it's right, which we could dispute 800 times, you then said, oh, because of all the eyewitnesses. And then we got into, well, who wrote it? Because the reason I asked who wrote it is it wasn't written by eyewitnesses. We don't know who wrote it. It's anonymous, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you said, no. It says, I saw these things. And we asked for chapter and verse. We got it. It doesn't say that.
Yeah.
So why should we keep talking to you?
I didn't give you a verse.
Yeah, because you don't know
Because
your
you don't have
Bible.
one.
And here's
Right.
and here's the best part. I'm gonna mute you for the first time, Ulrich. I could have done it this entire time, and I haven't, you know? And here's what's so silly is that you don't even know your own book enough. Because if you did, you would have said, hey, SR, you're being a little dishonest here. Because if you just read the verse before, it says the thing that I say. But guess what? It still fucking doesn't, but I'm just gonna give you the verse anyway, just so that you can see what it is actually like to give a shit about the truth. John chapter 21, verse 24 says, this is the disciple who testifies to these things and who wrote them down. We know that his testimony is true. Now, I don't know how much you know about fucking grammar, but I'm gonna let you know that is not the first person. That is not the first person there. It nowhere in the Gospels says, I, insert a name, wrote these things down. Here, though, is the answer to my question. A super basic understanding if you are going to be a believer in the Christian faith who actually gives a shit about being honest. The only answer you can give to that question of where is an eyewitness statement is in the beginning in the book of Luke Acts, where it says, I wrote this down for you, honorable Theophilus. But it doesn't even fucking still do the thing, man. It still falls short. You don't even realize how paltry this argument is. And the frustrating part about it is it genuinely doesn't feel like you care that much to both myself and Cross-Examiner. So, Cross, I am going to give it to you. Do you want to keep going? I've still got him muted. I can unmute him if you want.
No, I don't think so. I think he's I will say, as a piece of advice as we let you go, that you are making an argument about what is theoretically the most important question of all of humanity's ever existence, right? What happens when we die? Is there the happy place? Is there the bad place? Do we keep existing as ourselves? This is, for most people, including me, would be the most important question of your lifetime. Because if the claims made by people who believe in the Bible or other religions are true, then this isn't the end. And there's a whole bunch of stuff to come, right? And that's kind of important for those who want to experience it. So assuming it's the most important question, you would think you would take it much more seriously than you. If your entire argument rests on, a book says that it is the testimony of an eyewitness, therefore I am going to live my life by this. That's a really weak argument because, books lie. But you would at least know that, and that would be your reason. But when we ask you, you seem to not know any of this. You seem to be not familiar with the fact that every scholar in the Christian space would agree, we don't know who wrote the Gospels. certainly wasn't eyewitnesses. They were written in the first century, 30 to 70 years after Jesus died. And they all seem to be related to one another, except for one of them sort of sitting off on the side that also mimics the things, but they all have their own sort of take on the Jesus narrative, but they're all building on one another. They look very much like first draft, second draft, third draft of a script that you're trying to punch up and make more exciting as they go along. That's what we're dealing with. And there's no evidence at all to support the claims you've made during our call at all. So I wish you luck. I'm sorry I got a little hot under the collar. I don't usually do that. But when somebody is so obviously doesn't care, about, this is why I believe, and then you are presented with facts that contradict the basis of your belief, and then you say you don't care. And that is the problem we're having in the world today.
Yes. And
people don't care about truth.
I get so frustrated when somebody takes the time to lay out a nuanced point, right? Bringing in supporting arguments, showing the conclusion. I mean, you sat there for like 3 fucking minutes straight and we're like laying out this really well-rounded, thought. And then he just completely did not give a shit about it. It's like, man, that alone is so frustrating. Like, I hate that. Like, if it's dumb, if what you said was dumb, fine. But respond
come
to
at me,
it.
bro. Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we are fucking here for.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I have made many stupid arguments that have been pointed out to me as being stupid. And then I go, oh, you're right. I'll need to go back to the drawing board on that one. And maybe I'm wrong. That's the honest position, right? So if I'm wrong, point it out to me. If the majority of Christian scholarship says we know who these authors were, and they've got evidence to establish that, bring it to this show.
Yeah.
It will actually make your argument a little bit stronger.
Yeah, and we'd stop saying it. It'd be really be that easy for us. Like, all somebody would have to do is just go, hey, here's the document.
Here's the thing.
Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. Haven't been able to do it with God for like going on, how many fucking years now. Yeah. Anyway, we have some really cool super chats I'm going to read. And then I have a super fun announcement before we grab some other calls. We are going to say, let's see, Nero sent $5, has been a member for 1 whole freaking year, saying, I do not promote violence. I simply want to pose a reminder that the Second Amendment exists to protect your rights, not to collect toys. Stay safe.
Excuse me.
Stay safe, everybody.
Let's take a moment to talk about that. And I want to emphasize the not promoting violence part, but I also want to emphasize the hypocrisy. The people who have brought the current administration to power are those people who would cite the Second Amendment as, hey, this is a constitutional clause. That means it's the most important thing out there. And they're right? They're right. They are right on your right to bear arms. It's in the Constitution, and we want to change that. We need to change the Constitution. I don't disagree with you. But then when you turn around and support people who are like, the Supreme Court doesn't, that's, Article 3 of the Constitution is not really that important, or that whole establishment of religion part, we can do away with that. That shows that you're an utter hypocrite who actually doesn't care about democracy, constitutional norms, democratic principles, any of that. So I think that it's very important to use this moment that Nero pointed out to say, hey, it's all in the Constitution. And if you're going to sit there and shout about the Second Amendment, then you should also be shouting about violations of the First Amendment.
I remember when somebody once said to me, the day that this government started that whole separation of church and state thing, that was the day this country, went off the rails. And I thought, I'm pretty sure that's in the Constitution. I'm pretty sure it's in there.
In fact, it started before the Constitution in Virginia, where Virginia tried to create public schools that would teach. They were going to hire. They introduced a bill to hire Christian teachers to teach Christianity in public schools, and it was Jefferson and Madison, who were big supporters of the Second Amendment, and all of the conservatives love them, who stood up and wrote all sorts of protest articles in the paper saying, no government should ever base itself in religion, and that was pre-Constitution. So I guess that's the day the United States went downhill, was before the Constitution
before it existed.
Okay.
Yes. It makes sense if you just don't think about it. We've got $10 from the gray-haired gamer saying the difference between Marbury versus Madison is that this Supreme Court is going to willfully cooperate with the expansion of the power of the chief executive. Yeah, this is totally personal. This is a completely personal thought. It doesn't represent any other, organization or person's views. I personally am just happy that the general kind of what do you want to call it? Like the general kind of deference that we give to the Supreme Court, this kind of like holy organization and institution. I'm glad that that's disappearing. Because it never should have been that high, in my opinion.
I will quote Justice Sonia Sotomayor in her dissent regarding the presidential immunity case, who signed it with fear for our democracy. I dissent. And I will give you a ray of hope. I tend to, in my darker moments, agree with you, the gray-haired gamer. Watch people like Roberts and watch people like Amy Coney Barrett, quite frankly. Shockingly, she has proven to be a more moderate on the court that Trump appointed. It is part of the McConnell court, really. McConnell created this court by refusing to even talk to Obama's nominee, all of that stuff. So this is really the McConnell court. Amy Coney Barrett comes out of a tradition that, while it may sound kind of awkward to this audience, it's a Catholic legal tradition. The Catholic legal tradition is quite strong, quite frankly. A lot of Catholics on the court, Scalia, for example, famous Catholic jurist. They do have a very strong legal tradition in in fact, there's the Catholic School of Law is in DC near me. I applied to it. It's a very strong law school. I was admitted to it. I ended up going elsewhere. But so watch her, because the one thing they've got going for them that politicians in the Congress don't is they're appointed for life. So they are. Some people always say, "Oh well, Judge so and so was appointed by this president, therefore they're beholden." That's bullshit. You see judges going against presidents that appointed them all the time because they're appointed for life. Now, that said, they can be impeached just like a president. So, but that takes a super majority. So we'll see how that goes. But watch her. I'm fingers crossed that she and Roberts might be a moderate vote here with anything that might come up. And so far, also, the federal judiciary has held that when the Trump administration froze money and refused to pay, that was an unconstitutional seizure of money. Congress said, give this money to these people. President said, no, I'm keeping it. That's a seizure. You could even call it theft. The courts immediately said, I think that it was I forget which judge it was. It was a district court, but he said, this is the easiest constitutional case I've had in 40 years. No, you can't do this. So watch the courts. The lower courts are going to inform the upper courts. I have hope. But the fact that we have to count on individuals, like literally maybe it's just Amy Coney Barrett, is terrifying. Yeah.
Let's do $10 from Miranda Rensberger, been a member for 1 year, saying, yeah, like you've never said anything inappropriate before, SR. Tell us your answer. I've got a few more super chats to get through. We'll see how many people, because I typed my answer. I typed my answer to the people backstage, and they were not particularly excited. So we'll see. We got $10 from Dustin King, been a member for 2 years, saying, SR, say the inappropriate thing. Well, that's 2. I mean, okay, so we'll see.
And that's a lot.
Does the American Republic meaningfully still exist?
Yes, I think there's a very valid question to follow up is, should it? I think that there is a valid academic question and possibly a real question to say, is this country just too goddamn big? 300 what are we at? 370, 340 million people.
Are we really?
We're way up there, and we're seeing some cracks. that you see when societies say, okay, we're all going to be governed by some rules and we're going to create a system where it's really hard to change things. And then slowly one party gets into a position where they can change things and it's terrifying to the other people. I would not be opposed to those discussions. I think that if you look at the money that flows from the more atheistic states to the more religious states, it's massive. And so if we decided to part ways as a country, it would be interesting to see what happens to the theocracy that would be created, because for sure it would be a theocracy. It would be, the Evangelical Church of Texastan or whatever they call their new country. Right. We still exist. Should we? Good question. I think that a lot of people can write some books and have some good conversations about that.
Yeah. Who knows where we'll be in the next 50 years.
Right.
Some kind of Dickie, been a member for 1 month, sending $5, saying, can we have negative amounts on super chats asking for a friend?
He doesn't want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I don't know.
That would be a great hack if you entered a negative amount, like you actually took money out of our account.
Yeah. We've got Carlos Srauer, been a member for 6 months, sending some Argentine pesos again, 20 of them, saying love to all. Well, thank you so much.
I think you missed one, by the way.
Yep, I have that right here. But we're going to grab Isaiah S. He sent $5 saying no eyewitnesses in one of the most populated cities of the empire with a 10% literacy rate. Impossible. Mythicism for the win. Yes. Maybe. I don't know, actually. I do really like David Fitzgerald, though. He's a really cool mythicist. And then we've got $9.99 from Miss Blasphemous saying, hope this counts. We want to know the inappropriate thing, SR. Well, look, I'm going to ask them again. I'll change it up a little bit because I could say it in a couple of different, the most inappropriate way. They didn't like. They vetoed that, but I could probably change it up. But we have.
You're setting the bar pretty high.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. We're gonna see what happens. But first, we have this really, really cool announcement. Some really exciting news. Hey, Sophia.
Calling all free thinkers. We are excited to announce that the ACA is launching its first ever fundraising campaign, Amplify ACA, in partnership with Amplify Austin. This is your chance to expand our impact by making your voices heard and supporting the shows that you love.
We invite you to join us on March 5th starting at 6 p.m. We're going to be doing a 24-hour fundraising event and camp out live at the Free Thought Library in Austin, Texas. We've got a great show in the works, a whole variety hour with our hosts doing different things, not just taking calls like you're used to, but we're going to have the fun facts and playing some games and lots of different activities. So be sure to join us from that. Again, it's going to be really exciting, and we're looking forward to having as many people involved as we possibly can.
Donating is easy on amplifyatx.org. Just search the word atheist and click the donate button. Follow us on our socials for more information.
And this is important. We want to be able to amplify the voices of reason and compassion worldwide. So we ask you, please, donate on Amplify Austin Day to make a real difference.
Yes, that
Excellent.
is right. Thank you so much, Ben, Sophia, and Jamie. This is our first ever major fundraising campaign, guys, and we need you all to help make it a big success. So put it on your calendars. March 5th, 6 p.m. That will start our fundraising kickoff party and our 24-hour live stream. That is right, folks. I have already been talking with people. There are things in the works. There are lots of cool things that will be happening, both remote and at the Free Thought Library. So if you're in the Austin area, you better head down to the Free Thought Library. And if not, you can just join us online like you are right now. So make a plan to donate and let's amplify the ACA together. So,
and it's just you, right? For those 24 hours?
Yeah.
Just SR.
Right.
But if you pay us money, we'll add people.
Yeah. If you send super chats
Super
right
chats,
now, we will make sure that other people, it will not just be me on screen if you send super chats. Otherwise, we can't guarantee shit. So
if you
it's
send
really,
enough, we'll just take them off entirely.
That's right. It's up to you. It really is. It's up to you. It's kind of like faith, grace by works, you know?
Right.
Anyway, let's grab another call. We're gonna go out to Arizona. We're gonna talk with Joshua. Wants to talk about the necessity of God in terms of removing guilt from sin. Well, hey Joshua, you're chatting with Cross Examiner and Secular Rarity. What you got?
Hi, SR and Cross Examiner. I've been listening to you guys for a while. I really respect both of you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I just want to say that first and foremost, and I also want to apologize on behalf of all Christians, because I am a Christian, for the last caller. I didn't.
Don't.
So
no worries.
We know lots of. I have lots of Christian friends. I understand there's
Trust
a bit
me.
of an outlier there.
Yeah. No worries. What are you here to tell us about today, Josh?
Can I just say a little bit more, because I do have a lot on my heart right now before I talk to that.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Because the belief in God is not obvious. And I think Christians are assuming it is, and that's why they're coming at atheists kind of aggressive. And I don't think you should do that. I don't think.
Can you define what you mean to say the belief is not obvious? I don't understand what that means.
Okay, so there are.
Do you mean God is not obvious, or God is obvious, or I don't understand what it means for a belief to not be obvious.
Well, because there's people that do believe, right? And they don't really question their belief, so it's obvious because they don't question it, they don't think about it. But then there's people that
it's obvious to them. You mean?
Like, yes.
Okay,
like
understood.
Christians, it's obvious. Yeah, and then to atheists, it's like no, and then there's questions and there's pushback, and that's perfectly fine. And then they quote scripture without understanding. The scripture doesn't matter to them. They're looking for like other reasons because they don't. First of all, they don't even believe in the reliability of scripture. So then, that's a whole nother problem. But I just wanted to acknowledge that like we need to stop doing that as Christians, and I want to speak to everyone like that because that's not fair to come off aggressive. And I feel for SR because of the attacks he gets. But like it's almost like treating you guys kind of rude, assuming it's so obvious when it's not.
Well, I appreciate all that.
Sure.
Yeah, I appreciate all that, Joshua. In general, I'm a big fan of trying to speak calmly with people. I can also tell you every so often I get a little hot on my own, but don't worry, man. I'm definitely a big boy. I can totally take it. What I've got here, and tell me if this sounds right to you. The necessity of God in terms of removing guilt from sin. Is that what you kind of want to talk about today? Because I have a question on that.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So why would we need to remove guilt from sin? I think that's the.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah, please.
Can we first define sin?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it depends on basically the person's where they're coming from. So everyone has a different perspective of sin. And typically we would refer to sin as something that makes us feel bad. Typically.
Can I offer a definition that I think often a lot of believers tend to like?
Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
I think one of the best definitions biblically, theologically speaking, for sin is missing the mark as set by God. Not matching up to God's standards. Do you think that's a fair understanding of what sin is?
I mean, when it comes to, sure, we can work with that, but I'm not speaking. I don't want to use scripture right now. I want to use.
Well, sin is a scriptural term, isn't it?
Yes, thank you. I started joking.
Like people who are not religious don't talk about sin. We talk about immoral acts. We talk about laws. We talk about guilt, but we don't use the word sin. It's only religious people who come to us with the word sin. So I think, ultimately, it's a scriptural concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's fair, Cross-Examiner. That's a fair point. I think the reason I use the word sin is because I am religious, but more so just what's like considered to like philosophers as like moral.
So let
And
me try real quick just to maybe cut through a little. I think I might be following. Are you saying something more in the sense of God is necessary for removing those bad feelings that we get whenever we do something wrong? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes, to an extent.
Cool. Okay, we'll stop right there. Just hang on, Joshua, because real quick, I just want to say this, and this might sound a little harsh, this might sound a little weird, and I'm sure somebody out there is going to clip it at some point, but I don't want those bad feelings to go away.
That was my question. Why should those bad feelings go away?
I don't want those. I outright am here to tell you, undeniably, Joshua, when people do bad things, I want our human system to kick in and tell us that. I absolutely do not want some blanket that numbs me to the pain and suffering of the people around me. Absolutely not. I want those bad feelings because I want to be better. What do you think?
I think that's a really good response. I think guilt can move people to, well, it does give a sense of like, I messed up, right? And if it's just like, okay, I don't have guilt after I did something cruel to someone, then I'm going to keep doing it. So I think that is, yes, I agree with that, SR. I think that's a good point.
Now with all of that though, I'll say this, the next level, which I think this is fair for us to talk about too, is like, well, at some point there's probably a reasonable moment at which feeling guilt about this maybe isn't warranted anymore, right? Or that sadness that I feel, whenever I've hurt somebody's feelings or whatever, right? Like
I had the same idea, and I had a question about that.
Please.
So let's assume I wronged a friend and I feel bad about it. The way I deal with that and make that fixed to some degree is I go to that friend, I apologize, I try to make right. Hopefully the friend will forgive me or tell me that, oh, I understand, etc. And I might not totally not feel guilty anymore, but at least I probably feel less guilty, right? And as time removes, time heals all wounds, I might feel less guilty as my friendship continues to grow, so it didn't impact it that much, right?
Exactly.
What right does anybody else have except my friend for forgiving me for that? What right does a God have to come in and say, don't worry about screwing over your friend. You just tell me that you feel bad about it and I'll forgive you. Screw your friend. Isn't that what Christianity teaches?
Yeah.
Substitutional atonement?
Kind of like you're saying, like, that's between you and your friend. It has nothing to do with God, right? Like, why does God come into this? Because
would it be a morally good thing for a third party, whether it's a God or not, to come to me and say, I forgive you for what you did to your friend, thereby obviating the need for me to go and talk to my friend? Would that be morally right? Is my friend still injured?
If God was... Your friend is still injured.
And my friend will never hear me apologize in this hypothetical. So my friend is going to continue to feel injured. Mm-hmm. Maybe time will heal their wounds,
nor is Cross going to do anything meaningful to help them in this healing process or anything, right? He's just going to completely ignore this person for the rest of his life, Like, is this really good?
Yeah, I think where God comes in is more so to speak against, like, to form the conscience. I think some people need to learn, but most people do have a basic understanding that was wrong.
Why would God give us a conscience? Think about that.
Why would God give us a conscience? Because
what's the purpose of that?
The conscience is to self-reflect. It's to be able to acknowledge what's wrong.
Sure, to not do bad things potentially, right? To have that ability to change and grow and be better. But let me ask you something. Do you think your God knows what's going to happen tomorrow? And if so, do you think that God knew that certain constructions of the universe would result in certain bad behaviors as a potential. And then doesn't that make it kind of weird that God made the universe in this way only to give us this like little check system every so often to like remind us that what we did was bad, even though he could have made it so that it never happened to begin with?
I think when you go down that path, it gets a little like it's beyond my head. Like I'm not.
It's okay. Trust me, man.
I mean,
I totally understand.
Actually,
it is. It's crazy complicated.
This is a really good line. So I'm going to break it down to make it not above anybody's head. So my first question for along this line, because it's a really good line, is, do you believe that God created everything?
Everything in the sense of like what we observe.
Yeah, I'm not trying to trap you. It's like, call it what you will. This planet, the universe, God caused all of this stuff to come into existence. Do you agree with that?
Sure, yeah, why not?
Okay, and I'm not. And if you need to take that back later, I'm not trying to trap you. I'm just setting up a few establishing questions. Then the second one, which is a little more complicated, and Christians do disagree on this one. So let me know your thoughts. When God created all this stuff, did he know what was going to happen, as SR indicated? Did he know that, the earth would form, the dinosaurs would exist, and then I'd be on this show?
I think when it comes to God's knowledge, I want to plead agnostic. I don't want to make statements.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
That's okay.
Well, that's good. I think that's a logically sound point, because if you had said, yes, God knew, then the next question is, well, then God knew what would happen when he created. Could he have created another universe where I wasn't on this show, or I didn't hurt my friend, etc.? Yeah. Therefore, I'm just trying to break down what SR's point is. Therefore, God chose a universe in which I was on the show, right, or the dude robbed the bank, or the tsunami killed 500,000 people in Asia.
That must have been the construction that God viewed as being the best. The best option is this one where apparently we all have this capacity to do some really fucked up things. But good news is, hey, sometimes we feel bad about it afterwards. It kind of just, it's a little weird, it's like setting up a scenario in which your child is going to do the wrong thing and then still like going through with it. It's just a little odd. It's a little silly, man. But
he could have made a world where nobody ever wanted to rape a child.
Exactly. Like it is possible, and it doesn't mess with our free will. He could make alterations to the physical universe and the laws around us that govern things and make it so that it just is literally impossible to do some of these, most atrocious things, right?
Why do we need to eat? 10,000 children are going to die of starvation every single day this year on this planet.
Right.
God chose a construction where we have to eat. And he also apparently wanted to give us a conscience.
Mosquitoes have enough force to penetrate the human skin.
Right.
They could exist where they are never capable of having that,
Yeah.
Like, so we'll be talking about it. Let's throw it back to you for a second.
Sorry, Joshua.
No, because the problem of evil, it is something. It's a big
one.
It is a big problem. It is a problem, and it's not disregarded. I'm not going to.
Our point is that it's tied up in your point. Guilt is related to, as you call it, sin or immorality, which is evil. Some people will call it evil. I don't tend to use that word very much, but I agree with you. It's all tied up in that, which is why we went down that road. So what are your thoughts about this as it relates to your initial position that God is necessary to remove your guilt after you do bad things?
What was your question?
Your initial position was, if I understood it, God is necessary to alleviate your guilt after you do something bad. SR's reaction was, I don't think I want that. I think people should feel guilty after bad. And then I asked, hey, is it appropriate for a third party to alleviate the guilt when you should actually be that guilt should drive you to make amends with the person, etc. There's lots of other questions we could ask, but has your position changed at this point, or do you still think that God is necessary to alleviate the guilt and that guilt should be alleviated? And I'll throw on a third question for you, which is, or maybe that's too much, but why, I guess, would be the question is that SR was saying is, why would we want a God to do that? So I'm tossing it back to you.
I mean, I agree with SR in the sense of like removing the guilt before acknowledging the guilt is a wrong thing. But if one is to acknowledge the guilt, then it's removed. That's another.
Can you remove guilt without God?
There is, I think within psychology and with therapy and counseling, there is a perceived guilt that a lot of us have that is not, that people are not actually responsible for, right? So you can have guilt on your mind, and it's not something you actually are responsible for, and that's where therapy comes in, and that's where people need to realize, hey, it's not your fault. You're a little boy and you did this, so and so.
But what about the other therapy where you did do something? I killed my parents when I was a kid, intentionally, and now I'm an adult and I'm in therapy. Can you lessen your guilt without God?
Well, within the therapy aspect, if we are using, because to be without God is to be without Christianity, so to speak, without like a lot of teachings that come from that.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about that premise. Like under most things, you can't do anything without God. God's acting even if you aren't aware of it. So that's tricky.
Yeah. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go down that path because with the idea of without God, it's kind of hard to say without God. It's
so coming from our perspective, I don't want to speak for SR. I've done bad things before. I don't feel as guilty as I did before. I don't have any belief in God, and I have worked on guilt about those things. So take that for what it's worth. For that to fit in most people's Christian paradigm, they were going to have to assert that if they hold with your premise that God is necessary for the removal of guilt, that God is removing my guilt without me believing in him. Is that your position?
No.
Okay. That's interesting. You are an excellent caller, Joshua.
Yeah, I really have enjoyed this, and I hate that I have to just cut it short a little here because we've got a shit ton. I mean, we have a shit ton of calls, like literally. So I wanna knock out a few more of those. But in the meantime, Josh, I love giving homework for people. Please feel free to just tell me to go, stuff it. But you said you were an agnostic about, what God's knowledge is, right? Whether, he knows everything or he doesn't. Look up Molinism. I think it's Mollinism, Molinism. It's about conditional knowledge, I think, if I remember correctly. And it might just be something that'll just help continuing to look down this path. I just think that's the most important thing in these types of discussions and these types of thoughts is that we never stop wanting to continue. We never stop wherever we are and just say, that's it. There's no more to learn. There's no more for me to change my mind about. No, screw all that nonsense. Let's always keep learning. Let's always keep investigating stuff. So, but thank you so much, Josh. I'm a drop you like a hot potato, and I'm so sorry for being so rude, but we do have a bunch of wonderful things to talk about. Like, for instance, you know what? Actually, we've got a wonderful, wonderful backup host today. Can we just bring on Kelly real quick? Can we bring on
Surprise, Kelly?
Man, it's good to see you. It is your birthday weekend.
Happy birthday.
That is amazing. That is awesome. And you know what? There's something else. You made me privy to this. And I got to be honest. Look, guys, I might get a little hot about this, okay? Because here on this show, we are principled, okay? We will not kowtow to this childish behavior. Apparently, there are some shows out there, Truth Wanted and Talk Heathen or something.
We don't mention their name.
These, let me tell you what these shows have done, okay? So they have completely without our knowledge thrown out this fucking challenge where we're supposed to like I don't know, pander and beg and just completely debase ourselves, you know, to try to get you guys to send super chats, you know, and like the winning show, whatever, like gets to tell the other shows what to look. I want you to know this. We will not engage in that behavior. It is beneath us. It is absolutely disgusting. And the three of us are here to stand firm on that. And if you agree with us, there is one way that you can show your support undeniably by sending in super chats of $5 or higher. The more money that you, because right now we're behind, and we will not bow to these absolutely ridiculous. I won't do it. I won't do it. And
I will refuse as long as we get enough money.
You know, just the behavior of these people from the other two shows has made me come over to your side.
Exactly.
Oh, really?
Thank you.
Yeah,
and that's
so I'm on your side now. I think we could pull this off. Hey, you know what? It is my birthday weekend. I don't want to stoop that low like they did on the other two shows and mention it was my birthday weekend.
No, it's
but
gross.
You know, if you wanted to make me happy, you could send a super chat. So
and I will tell you, Kelly, if you guys don't know in the audience, Kelly is this, no pun intended, the rock for the ACA. He does all things and does them well here. Backup hosts, runs after shows, all those things, and he definitely deserves your praise. Not because there's some sort of bet or competition on.
No, because
purely as a guilt-free donation to Kelly's birthday happiness.
I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't behave. I won't engage in it. That's just, I have principles. I will not root around in the mud like those other shows. And again, if you want to stand up and push back against that kind of nonsense, the best way for you to show your support here for our show and those of us that actually give a shit about our principles, you can send in a super chat of $5 or higher. It's the easiest thing you can do, and we will stand firm. And speaking of super chats, we have this one for $5 from Buddy Bouncer saying, "SR, answer the goddamn question. Don't make me pry it out of you in the after show." So I might just have
I
to
also
answer
wanted
that.
to mention that whoever wins this super challenge gets to dictate what the hosts of the other shows have to do next week.
And you see, and that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Help us.
It is.
Oh God.
It is absolutely. I mean, they have debased themselves, and that's fine. You know, we will not stoop to that level. We've got a $10 super chat from Sonozaki, a member for 1 year, saying, "Seriously, SR, you should just kept the very idea of an inappropriate answer quiet. Now the mystery is going to follow you forever." Well, thank you so much, Sonozaki, for actually being a genuine person and caring about the principles of it, not doing it just to raise money to show the other shows that we're better than them, because it's gross.
It is. It's really just filthy.
$4.99 from Jimmy Jr. saying, "I'll define sin, the ancient Mesopotamian moon god whose name became an expletive when his cult moved north and settled in Canaan." That's actually not bad. Yeah.
Is that
That's
true?
actually
I
pretty
don't know.
funny because Jimmy Jr. is actually working against himself there.
That's okay.
Oh, that's true.
He's also come over to our side, I think, is the case.
I think that's why Scott Dickey wanted to do a negative number too, was to bring us down.
Look, I just think it shows. I think it shows the truth in our claim, and that the other shows are obviously suppressing that truth in unrighteousness.
I agree. I hear on the rumor mill, maybe God is whispering it to me, that after this show, the Atheist Experience will once again be known as the flagship show of the ACA. We can make this happen, folks.
With your support, you guys.
With your support. Like, it was stolen from us by some show I won't name a year or two ago, or 3 or 4.
Send in your super chats, right? For no other reason than to stand up to these people that are trying to debase themselves and act like, I don't know. I've said enough bad things about him. Hang on. We've got $4.99 from Pizzuri saying, got to send in my Sunday tithings. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have $20 from Connor Canine saying, oops, I think this fell out of Kelly's pocket. This must be
Kelly.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
You're right. I did lose that.
Connor Canine, you are a true believer, a true follower. All of these fakers out there, sending in super chats, this morning it's gross. It's just gross, Sean F sending $20 Canadian saying, I refuse to engage in this super chat BS. That's
Nice.
right, Sean.
That's the way to do
Thank
it.
you for standing by the principles.
You show them. We will not kowtow to this bullshit, this dictatorial, autocratic behavior. We won't do it. We just won't. $5 Canadian from BC Stargazer, been a member for 1 year, saying, I should get the prize for my special launch and space news segments. Yes, I like that. I like that indeed.
He always lets us know when there's going to be a new spaceship launching.
Oh,
yes,
in
absolutely.
the 24/7 chat,
Yeah,
so we can always
absolutely.
go watch the launch live.
That
So
is
he
awesome.
actually does perform a pretty valuable
Guys,
service.
If
I
y'all
have-
don't know, there's a lot of really cool stuff happening in the ACD.
Yeah.
Well, we Kelly, we're gonna kick you out of here. We appreciate you so much, man. Thank you for standing true on your principles and not. Your birthday was just yesterday, right?
It's actually tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
This
And
was
you're
my
how old?
weekend, my birthday weekend.
So all
I've
of this has been
celebrating
fraud, is what you're
all
saying.
weekend.
Okay. And you're how old? You're
I'm officially old. I'm 65.
officially old, man, guys. Yeah, I mean, hey, look, like I said, I think it's gross. I wouldn't do it, but if you want to send a happy birthday wish to Kelly, one of the best ways to do that is a super chat right now. So thanks so much, man. We're gonna grab some other calls. Let's see. We got a bunch of good things here. I want to go talk about this one because honestly, I'm just not positive where we're going to go with this. So there's a very few amount of words here and it could go anywhere. So let's go to Alabama. We are going to talk with Benji, he, him. You are chatting with Cross Examiner and Secular Rarity. What you got for us today, Benji?
Hey, sorry, give me a second.
Yeah, you got a little background noise there.
TVs.
Hey, that's a lot better.
I was gonna talk. Well, I had a topic earlier when I called in on the other show, and but then I was trying to brainstorm, and I figured that I would talk about, I guess, problem of evil, the problem of indoctrination, the incest in the Bible. And
that's what I have.
A bit about Samson.
That last one was the one that I have on my call screening thing here.
You told
So
me to call in before with that other guy, and I could never never call in when that guy was on the phone. So I figured I'd just talk about it with you.
yeah, well, let's do it, man. What are your thoughts on it? I guess where do you want to go from here? There is definitely incest in the Bible, I think so.
Well, I'm not. I know it was like their, I guess, social customs and stuff like that back then, and then arranged marriages, which I think they still do that. And then, well, here's the interesting thing, right? So Adam and Eve, like it was them, right? But then you never really hear where well, you had Cain and Abel, but then Cain supposedly killed Abel or whatever. But where did their wives come from? You know, I mean, that's one of the questions I hear sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Benji, if you're calling to tell us that there is some creepy shit that goes on in the Bible, like, we are on board, man.
We are aware.
We are definitely on board.
Yeah, what's your position, Benji? First of all, are you a Christian?
Not in the. I've talked to secularity plenty of times, but I am in the sense that I believe in a God, but that's about it. Like my belief system is Gnostic, roughly.
Okay.
So, like, I think God's an asshole.
Understood. Okay, I'm familiar with that system.
Kind of a bad rap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of examples of incest in Genesis and Exodus. Lot, his daughters produce sons by their father. Abraham marries his half-sister Sarah. Jacob marries two of his first cousins. Noah's daughters, if I recall correctly, get him drunk and have sex with him. Judah's daughter-in-law has a problem with her father-in-law. There's lots of these sorts of stories. Now, what I've heard from by the Bible Christians is, well, these stories are there to tell us a story, like to teach us lessons. And if you don't take everything literally, then really, you know, these are just stories to show you people doing bad things because of bad situations they were in or forced to do or things like that. The only time where it really becomes a problem is when you take the origin story, Genesis, literally, and you think Adam and Eve are the only two people out there. If you take the Bible literally there, then you do have this real problem of God created a system where incest had to happen. So that raises the next question. Do you think incest is immoral?
Well, really, I think it's up to the individual people, but in society, I mean, it just depends, honestly. Like the people, I guess it's just up to the individual people and their family and whatever. But now, if they're not related, you know, then, well, I guess that would be incest then.
Right.
But you know, like
those little loopholes.
You know,
That's a necessary criteria there, I guess.
So yeah, I think we agree with you. There's a lot of incest in the Bible.
Yeah.
People take it different ways. It's sort of ho hum for me.
Yeah, and I guess
I did take Genesis literally when I first started reading the Bible decades ago.
Okay.
And as
what made you change your mind?
You know, and I've been. Well, see, I went through different churches. I was Catholic, I was Methodist, I was Baptist, most recently Methodist. And then I went to Church of Christ, which I just go there to go there. I'm not really, you know, worshiping or nothing like that. I don't even stay for the sermon. I go up there and see a few people and stay for like an hour and listen.
I hate to interrupt. We've got a ton of calls on the line. The question is, what made you change your mind about the Bible being literal, at least with respect to Genesis?
Genesis? Yeah, so people just told me it was metaphoric. So like,
okay.
I've had people say, and this was years ago, I don't even care about the Bible at this point, but the like people would just tell me it was metaphoric. So like the snake, you know, one of the main things that I asked, and it kind of pissed people off when I first started reading it, one of the main things I asked was, how is the snake talking? And they can never answer it. And then eventually people just went with, oh, well, it's metaphoric or whatever, which that still doesn't make sense. So
yeah.
I think it's an interesting point. I know we have a lot of callers, but what I take away from this is there are a lot of people in the world who believe all of this is literally true. They believe in a young earth. They believe in a talking snake. They believe that, yes, there was incest and it was good and blah, 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 blah. Those people vote. Those people are grown adults who think that if you're Muslim, that a horse flew with Muhammad to the skies and broke the moon in half, literally. I don't know how to interact with those people, to be honest, because it's so obviously crazy. Not that they are crazy. It's not mental illness. It's just, it's so far out of the realm of possibility. I don't even know where to start. So I tend to take those all as stories, just like the rest of the Bible, as you do. I don't know what your take is, SR.
No, I think
Mostly
this
just stories.
leads me. Yeah, I think this leads me to the exact place, you know, I think is right to leave you with, Benji, and have you think about and give us a call back, which is, you know, as you and I have talked, and I've listened to some of your calls with other hosts too, you know, and it really does seem to me that at the end of the day, man, you don't really believe this whole Bible thing. But you still kind of cling on to some of these aspects from it. Like, for instance, the belief in this God, you know, that has a lot of these attributes that seemingly come from the Bible. And just what I want to leave you with to think about for the next time when you give us a call back is just, hey, if you're already not accepting all this other stuff, and a lot of it, not only it's just not true, it's just like bad, why hang on to the rest of it? You know?
Well, I thought
Think about it. Well, hang on, Benji. Hang on now. Don't go answering right now. Give us a call back. Take some time to think about it, man, and give us a call back.
Yeah,
okay?
thank you very much.
Yeah, we got a bunch more, but I always do have a fun time chatting with you, man. And I think you're on the right path. I really do.
Yeah,
And
the Gnostic view always fascinates me, where people are like, I believe in a God, but he's a bad guy. I'm like, well, that's interesting. That's some interesting fan fiction right there.
I know. But yeah, think about it, Benji, and give us a call back, man. Thank you so much. We got a bunch of other great calls. But before I get into that, let me say a couple things to you. Like, for instance, available on atheist-community.org are printable call-in flyers. You can post these with permission to community bulletin boards so people know that they can call our show and defend their faith. And look at them right there. They are gorgeous. They are easy peasy for you to do. But again, please just make sure you get permission. It's not really that freaking hard. It just takes 5 seconds, you guys. Just do it. Don't be a dick. I mean, pretty great rule to live by. Also, the ACA wants you to know what is going on in the community, and for that, you can go to www.atheist-community.org. You can learn all about the organization itself, its policies, and how you can get involved. And if you like what we do, one of the best ways that you can support us is by becoming a recurring member on Patreon. It is so easy. They set it up so well. You don't even have to worry about it or do anything. They take the money right out of your account because you say, I love the ACA so fucking much. I want to make sure that they have all the things that they need, and I am going to give them money every single month. You can do that at tiny.cc/PatreonAXP. And of course, we have an amazing crew, a wonderful group of people. They are putting...
Wait a second. These are the people that said you shouldn't say what you wanted to say?
May or may not. They may or may not be a little disappointed with me at the moment, but that is okay. That is all right, people, because they are doing amazing work, and we have some incredible people that are not on camera.
100%.
Some video operators, audio operators, note takers, call screeners, chat moderators, the people that are responding to your emails. We have an amazing community that are doing really great things for us, and without them, Cross-Examiner and I wouldn't be able to sit here and think of inappropriate things to say that, okay, so I think maybe I might get it.
Okay.
I'll ask.
There might be a super chat that would convince you.
We've got some other calls.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to grab these calls, and then I see we've got some great super chats. And I just want to say, I know all that nice stuff I just said about Crew, but I want to let you guys know, okay? They have refused to tally the number that we are at. I think Crew might be colluding with Truth Wanted and Talk Heathen. They have refused to tell me, and I have it on good authority, that the hosts of the other shows were told regularly throughout the show where they were at. And if you want to push back against this nonsense and dictatorial just bullshit, you can send in a super chat.
They've been bribed.
It's ridiculous. The deck is stacked. It's not even... It's fine. It's whatever. It's fine.
You know, we should just bribe them so they'll treat us fairly.
No, this is what I'm saying. I don't want to do that because
You're not going to go to that level.
It's a race
to play
the
game,
bottom.
man.
It's a race to the bottom, CE. I won't do it. I know that we have supporters out there that will stand strong with us. I know that you will. So I will be checking those right after this call, because we are going to talk to a true monotheist. I don't know if you have ever done this before, Cross, but we are going to go out.
We're talking to God?
I don't know. That's could be. This is Dane Darklight. I might have said one of those wrong, but no pronouns given. Hey, Dane, you are a true monotheist, and I would say that myself and CE are non-believers. So yeah, help us understand your belief here, I guess. What do you believe in and why?
Yeah, well, I have a very unique perspective on God. I'm a non-Abrahamic true monotheist.
Okay.
Okay, so just let's break it down. Let's just break it down for our audience.
Yeah.
So you don't believe in the God of Abraham, i.e., you're not Jewish, you're not Christian, you're not Muslim, but you believe that there is a God, and you believe there is only one God. Can you define God for us?
Well, basically, I believe that we are all God. We are all an extension of the Godhood.
Okay. So what do you mean when you say we are all God and we are an extension of the Godhood? Currently, and not being shitty or anything, I'm being genuine here. Myself and CE we really don't understand what you mean by that. Like, so when you say Godhood, what is that?
Are we an anonymous collective? You said there is one God, but then you said we are all an extension of the God. So are we a collective, like a bug species that has a hive mind?
Ooh, that'd be cool.
No. Well, okay, let me break it down. I think we exist in a fractal singularity matrix where you have the primordial source of intelligence, the primordial individual that proliferated into infinite individuals, which is us, okay?
So do we exist at the quantum level?
What?
I'm sorry. I'm just poking a little fun at you. As soon as you start throwing those terms out, it reminds me of every 10 years or so, Hollywood changes the terms they use in their scripts for the magic that happens in sci-fi. So back when I was growing up, Star Trek: The Next Generation was on, and it would, hey, we got to reverse the polarity of the something of the tachyon field. And then quantum mechanics became present in the cultural knowledge. And then everything was, well, the excuse for the time travel is a quantum entanglement or whatever. And that sounds a lot like what you're talking about. Hollywood gibberish that is undefined and doesn't mean anything. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that as I have no idea what you're talking about. Presumably, since you believe it, you think you understand it. Can you explain it to somebody who has no idea what you're talking about? Like, dumb it down for us?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Okay.
So check it out. I do believe in the construct of the one true creator, but it's not any of the, there is no name for the one true creator. That's a clue. Anytime someone tries to throw a name up there, the one true creator is this name or that name.
But wait a second. Wait a second. Aren't names just sounds we make when we want to identify a thing?
Yeah. Doesn't have any bearing on the
SR is a name.
Right.
And I'll point out that the sound one true creator is what you are using to identify this thing. So in a sense, that is a name. So if we're going to follow the laws of logic, where a thing is a thing and it is not a thing, and it is not also a thing and itself at the same time, i.e. the law of identity, we need to put a label on a thing, and you're calling it the one true creator. So saying it doesn't have a name and that the fact that people try to give it a name is a sign that they're wrong, doesn't that mean you're wrong because you're giving it a name?
Well, I'm not giving it a name. That's just...
You're not giving it a name. You're just using a sound and writing down words that identify the thing, which is what names do.
Yeah. Like you could use the word label here and it would be fine, but label and name are like they're synonyms in the large overlap there with their meanings here.
Yeah.
I guess here's really, and I know this might be tough, okay? Because it sounds like this is dense, Dane. And I don't know if I'm saying that right, but hopefully I am. Maybe I'll just call you Dark Light, but it doesn't matter. Here's the point. This sounds like something that definitely would have demonstrable evidence to indicate whether or not this is true. And I'm really interested in figuring out, where did that evidence come from for you? How did you come across it? Why did you accept it? Just
how
that
much
type
of it
stuff.
did you smoke?
Yeah, I mean, right. Could be. No judgment on that. You do your thing that's legal and you're not harming other people and all that jazz. But yeah, how did you come across this information that led you to this conclusion? And then I'm just going to go ahead and preempt you. I'd love to know some of that information. So yeah, where do we go?
Okay, well, a lot of it came from psychedelics.
So I wasn't too far off.
So do you
no,
right there, just before we go any further, man, do you feel like we are warranted to be hesitant with that response? Like, let me give you a flip of the scenario, okay? I call you one day and I say, hey, Dark Light, man, let me tell you about this crazy fluffy elephant, man. It like floats and like it shoots out flames from its butt. And I'm pretty sure it speaks French, although maybe it's not French because I'm not really that familiar with foreign languages. But anyway, it was crazy, man. And you say to me, wow, SR, that's wild. How did you experience this? And my first thought is, so I did a lot of drugs. Would you be hesitant to accept that conclusion from me?
Not at all. I'd tell you to pass the drugs.
Okay.
Then I don't think that you're a very serious person then, quite frankly.
I think that's funny. I think it's funny. I mean, I think that's a funny response, but like genuinely.
Yeah, I think to go on to that track, there's scientific evidence, and you can go online and watch the videos, that when people are having psychedelic experiences, they tend to sense a transcendental, a unification, a feeling of all one things. They feel sadness when they come down that other people aren't feeling this thing. There's a lot of that going on. There's also scientific evidence that when you alter your blood chemistry, you can hallucinate. You can accept as real things that are not real. How do I differentiate what you experienced from those things? The things that are not real that you experience and believe are real, because lots of other people will go on trips and come away and say they know God, and it's not your God, it's their God, or it's the Abrahamic God or whatever, right? How can I tell which of you, if any, are actually correct? What tool do we have as humanity to figure out which of you is correct?
Well, check it out. I'm not trying to convince y'all either. I'm just trying to tell you guys.
Why are you calling then?
Divinity.
Yeah. Why are you calling this show if you're not trying to convince people?
Silly, Dark Light. And I think that's a bit of a cop-out, because you know that you would never say that in any other scenario of your life. If somebody comes up to you and they say, man, my dog, it can fucking talk, you would go, nah, man, that's kind of weird. And then they'd go, well, why do you have, what evidence do you have to believe that dogs can't talk? And you'd be like, hey, man, I'm not trying to convince you. No, fuck that shit. Like, that's just stupid. Like, you believe something, I believe something, CE believes something. When somebody comes up to us and presents us something and they say, hey man, this is what I believe, and it disagrees with us and we communicate about that fucking disagreement, yes, we are trying to convince each other, because in part we are trying to justify it for ourselves. All of this fucking shit, man, is post hoc. We're coming up with these narratives after the fact. And you, just like me, want other people in this world to listen to the things that we say and go, huh, yeah, that sounds fucking good. So come on, man. Like, let's be real here. This is a show that for 20 plus fucking years has had the tagline of, what do you believe and why? So we've done that first part. We have a decent understanding. And now, why do you believe this?
Yeah. What evidence do you have that this is true and not like all the other trips that we've seen other people take? What evidence do you have? What tool do you have to prove to yourself that this is true?
I think you guys are so used to theists trying to convince you of things that you think all theists are sitting there trying to convince you guys.
I don't think you know anything at all, Darklight, because regularly I fucking hang out with believers in Nashville, goddamn Tennessee. Nashville fucking Tennessee is the home to some of the largest fucking Christian organizations. I talk with these people regularly. They are friends of mine, man. Like, I think what you're doing here is you're being dishonest because you're recognizing that this question, this very basic question that we're asking, you haven't thought about. And you busted down the fucking door, kicked that shit in and said, I am fucking here, bitches. And then the moment somebody walked up to you, you cowered in a corner. And that's okay. But like, don't pretend that's on me. And like, you busted down the door.
And don't forget, part of your declaration was that everybody else was wrong.
Right. Like, yeah, it literally says here, I just want you to know this. And I know our call screeners well enough because I call screened for a while for this wonderful show. Okay. I know our call screeners well enough to know they probably went back and forth with you for a few minutes and were like, hey, man, just before I type this up and put you in the queue, just want to make sure that this sounds right. It says here on your call screening note, followers of Abraham are a blood cult of sin worshipers. Well, guess what, dude? Well, I agree, but like, you know, come on. You obviously are trying to convince people. Why the fuck would you say they're a blood cult? Otherwise? He
also said it on our show.
Yes!
He said, when we had the whole name conversation, he said, anybody that's trying to apply a name to the God, they are wrong. So you're making declarations, you're calling a show. You either are desperate for attention and validation, and you really don't care to convince anybody because you're either a troll or you just need this interaction. Or you do want to try to convince people, but you don't want to try to convince us. Either way, I'm very bored with that. I don't think our audience cares about that.
Yeah,
that's not why we're here. Look at a previous caller we had. I think it was Joshua. There was a great call where he was saying, I don't know, and I don't want to get into that. I'm not sure. He was genuinely seeking truth and trying to have a conversation about various experiences we've had and he's had. You don't give a crap about that, and I couldn't be more bored.
Yeah, and I know we've had you on mute for a little bit here, man, and there's probably a moment where you're thinking like, what a bunch of assholes, you know, or whatever.
It's just a boring thing, yeah.
Well, and here's what I'm going to say. Prove us wrong. This hypothesis that we've laid out is so fucking falsifiable because all you have to do is just call back in next week or the week after and have a genuine fucking conversation. Yeah. Because if you can't fucking do that, then I think we'll be proven right. So we're going to let you go. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. Would have loved for that to have gone more deep, though.
That would have
been fun.
I've told a story on the show before about my experience while I was coming out of surgery, and I would have sworn under oath that the nurses were trying to kill me and all this sort of stuff. And they changed my pain meds, and all of a sudden, everybody's really nice. These experiences happen. And if you can't answer the question I asked, you're in big trouble. And the question was, what tool do we have as humans to figure out which of all of these people that are making claims under similar circumstances are correct? If you can't answer that, not who is correct, but what tool do we have that best answers that question, then you're in trouble. Hint, the tool is the scientific method.
Yeah. Seems to be the most reliable.
It seems to work.
Fucking time.
Like, my plane has yet to crash. Planes crash, but we know why they crash.
Right.
But it stays in the air.
It's never been magic. It's never been magic.
Yeah.
We have some incredible people out there that have stood up and pushed back against this nonsense from the other shows. Patricia McGill, been a member for 2 years, sending $20 saying, I don't trust Trusk. And there you go. And that's a tongue twister right there, I'll say. And I just want to say thank you, Patricia, for standing up and pushing back against this authoritarian garbage that we're seeing from these other no principled. It's
low energy, low IQ.
It's gross. We've got $5 Canadian from Yahooligan saying, I'm starting a secular Rarity fan club, and I'm not inviting anyone to join. That is probably the way a secular Rarity fan club should be held. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Me and Yahooligan are buddies.
That's the practice of rejecting people before they can reject you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my therapist and I are working on it. But Yahooligan and I, we've done a good few things together. We've been hanging out over on his channel, Skeptic Spin. It's been lots of fun. So yeah. I mean, he is Canadian, so you got to let that shit slide. But whatever, that's fine.
I'll forgive him.
We got Mikel Asa, I don't think I said that right, $6.66 saying, happy birthday, Kelly. And thank you for shouting that out. We really, really appreciate that, because we know that was a genuine happy birthday and not just something to try to pander to get money or anything. We know that, and we appreciate you.
Here am I trying to figure out what sort of new drug HBD is.
HBD, yeah, exactly.
HBD for Kelly?
Yeah.
Only $6.66? That's great.
Yeah. It's cheap now. They've lowered the prices. We got $4.99 from Poor Claire saying, do y'all believe there is any possible situation where it could be just to send someone to hell? Does it make sense to judge God by our morality? I'll say real quick, I think the answer to the first question is no. And then the answer to the second question is, I'm not. I'm judging God based on his morality. And based on his morality, he does things and behaves in a way that violates the code that he set. So what do you think? Any thoughts?
If we define hell, because lots of different people will define it different ways, but if we define hell as eternal or infinite punishment for a finite crime, I think that is infinitely immoral by definition. If we define it as a separation from God, but you're still suffering for eternity, I still think that's a problem. So for all the definitions of hell I've heard of, yes.
I was going to say, I haven't heard one yet that sounded all right. They all sound kind of fucked up.
Does it make sense to judge God by our morality? I have no other morality to use to judge a thing. I would love to hear where my morality is improper. A lot of people will follow this up with, oh, well, God is a God. He's like a human and he can step on the ants and we are just ants and all that stuff. And I'm like, then you don't even know and all that stuff. Yes, it does make sense for me to judge, because under most iterations of God I've seen proposed, that God has the ability to enlighten me as to what his morality is and why it's right. And he has not done so.
Yeah. So balls in your court. In your court, God.
I am waiting for the caller that will convince me, or an insight from God.
I'm sure I'll have a Damascus Road experience. I've just never been to Damascus, so maybe.
Yeah, but for you, it's just going to be like one of those old road movies where you're like, we're off on the road to Damascus.
Yeah.
And have some of that HBD while you go.
Yeah, have some of that HBD. That's what I need. Well, I'll tell you what, we have $50 freaking dollars.
Holy cow.
From Philip Mitchell. Been a member for 2 years and a proud, principled individual. Somebody that will not kowtow to the garbage and will not give in to the intimidation. Send in $50. Thank you so much. Saying everyone knows snakes speak Parseltongue, and that is absolutely true. That is a fact of the universe, and I am going to say that because of that super chat that Phil just did. I'd have said anything right there. So.
I think both fan fictions, the Bible and Harry Potter, both are valid to study.
Yes, and I thought, okay. So I just want to remind you guys, look, our crew may have been compromised, okay? And they refuse to tally live the super chats that we have gotten. And I genuinely believe it is because they are working on the behalf of other shows and they are purposefully trying. Okay. So even though Philip just gave $50, do not think
that's not the end of it.
We are not out of this fight yet. Okay. And again, I just want to say, we here on the Atheist Experience, myself, Cross Examiner, and Kelly Laughlin, We would never engage in underhanded or cheap pandering tactics. It is disgusting.
Because our listeners on this show are the best listeners who know pandering when they hear it.
Absolutely. Because they're so smart. Because our listeners are intelligent and they're goddamn good looking as all hell, too.
Absolutely.
So
and
if
their taste in clothes is impeccable. If
you want to stand up with us, just shoot us that super chat. Like, I met our aider. I always say this one wrong. Sending $20 and saying just giving you my love. And we appreciate that. And we also really appreciate that $20 too, because again, we have it up against us because the crew is bribed.
I think we should rename Crew Cam to Goon Squad Cam, quite frankly.
I mean, it's so fucked up. And we still come back and we do the show.
Thugs.
It's crazy. It's like, we need to renegotiate our contract.
I think so. I want to double my salary. Well, screw it. While I'm at it, I'll triple it.
Yeah, fuck it. I mean, why not? You know, what's a million times a zero anyway? So we are going to go out to the South. We are going to Kentucky, talking with Chris. Him. Sounds like you've got a strategy for handling the 10 Commandments in the classroom. Well, hey, you are chatting with SR and Cross Examiner. What you got for us, Chris?
Hey, Chris.
Well, hey guys, I've kind of debated where I can come at this, what angle I can come at this. Do I pretend to be a Christian fundamentalist and try to get Exodus 21 right next to Exodus 20, which is the 10 Commandments, and don't underline the slave parts, kind of let the kids,
figure it out.
Or because the bill, I guess, allows for administrators and teachers to choose whether they want to hang things up or not. So it's not like they're forcing the 10 Commandments, but
which state is this in? This is in Kentucky?
Yeah. So it just passed Bill 116 in the House. So
I didn't realize it had passed. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Tennessee, we do force the schools to hang the 10 Commandments, but I don't think it is classroom by classroom requirement. I think it is school requirement. That the school itself, every individual public school must have somewhere prominently displayed the 10 Commandments. But that at least that's better in Kentucky, that they're giving a little bit of deference to the teachers. It's still a violation of church and state, though, right?
For sure. I mean, if you could get Exodus 20, I'm sure they know about it next to it,
or Song of Solomon, right? Like either one of them would be really good.
Right. So it's I guess from in Kentucky.
So just to clarify for our listeners, the Kentucky bill was just introduced January 29th, as far as I see. I don't see that it's passed and been signed into law, but we'll keep an eye on it.
Okay, my Google must have messed up. I Googled whether it passed, so
that's okay. It's nothing wrong with being aware of the stuff.
No, the fact that they're trying it is more, indications that they've gotten the green light from recent Supreme Court opinions. So your call is right on point. So what strategy did you land on?
Well, so I'm working with Lexington Atheist Agnostic too. I just want to give a shout out to them. I'm talking with them, maybe something we could do. So Exodus 20 is the 10 Commandments, and then the very next page, it talks about how you can beat your slave not to death. That's the very next page. So I figure maybe we could I could come at it maybe as a Christian fundamentalist and try to make up some wishy-washy thing as to why the next page is important. It needs to hang next to it. Or I could be more aggressive and let them know my stance as an atheist, but
I think
wouldn't work out.
Right. So there is a variety of different ways to handle this. And I will, of course, shout out the Satanic Temple. They often do a phenomenal job because they are legally recognized as a religion, and there are branches of TST all over the country. There are a bunch of, active people. The Americans United for the Separation of Church and State, of course, is a fantastic organization. We are lucky enough here in Nashville that we have a small chapter that is very active and focused on stuff. You can also join with, and I know there might be some people out there that are going to they're going to feel a little skin crawly here, but just hear me out. There are a lot of secular organizations that do have a religious bent that absolutely despise this erosion of the separation of church and state just as much as we do as atheists, just as much as we do here at the ACA. Their mission is in line, and a broader coalition is going to be even more fucking powerful when you can bring people of all faiths and none together and really push back. I'll just shout out, there's a couple of other cool organizations up in that area. The Tri-State Free Thinkers, I know some of those folks, and the Kentucky Free Thought Conference. I also have heard rumors, and I don't know if I can totally say this yet, but I've heard rumors the Ark Encounter protest might be coming back, y'all. So I just, there is some people in Kentucky, Chris, that you can definitely get connected with. And then also I'll just say, man, I'm down here in Nashville and there's a good bunch of us now, and we're working on some shit this year. So definitely stay connected with people. I know the Discord, the ACD has a shit ton of people that are always invested in this stuff and interested and trying to get out and get active and letting people know. So please don't be doing this alone. Know that you've actually got a pretty big squad around you, even though you're down in the South here too. So let me throw it over to Cross Examiner real quick, and then we'll let you go. Okay.
No, I agree. These bills are a symptom of a broken. Well, not broken. Before the latest iteration of this court, these bills were publicity stunts. The idea would be that I introduce a bill that I know is unconstitutional, blatantly unconstitutional, and I do it so that I can run later by saying, I introduced a bill to put prayer back in schools, and these crazy atheist activist judges made me stop. That's why they do this. Now, ever since the court's recent decisions overturning some of our case law on how First Amendment cases get decided, you've seen state after state after state start introducing these, not just as publicity stunts, but as real efforts to cram a certain version of Christianity down people's throats. And that's one thing I always want to touch on is there's multiple versions of the 10 Commandments. When you look at the Louisiana bill, they did a very generic 11 commandments. If you count the commandments in the Louisiana 10 Commandments bill, there are 11, because if you look at a Catholic Bible versus a Protestant Bible versus other Bibles, they pick and choose as to what they included in there. And most of the time this falls apart when they have to choose which 10 commandments do we want. Historically, Louisiana tried to create the Bible as the official state book. I forget how long ago, a decade or so. That effort fell apart when the Catholics were like, okay, so it's the Catholic Bible. And everybody else says, no, it's the NIV or it's the King James. And nobody could agree, which is absolutely hilarious and telling to anybody who is not a believer. Like, you can't even get your book straight. So I just did, while you were talking to SR, some research. We've got House Bill 65 in Kentucky and House Bill 116. They're two different bills. They were introduced earlier this year on February 4th. They both were moved to committee, the Committee for Primary and Secondary Education. So they are in committee currently in Kentucky. Freedom from Religion Foundation, ACLU, Americans for the Separation of the United Church and State, United States Church and State in the United States. Those are all good organizations. And I will second, I got a lot to say. Sorry, I'm going quickly here. SR's point that there are many, many, many Christian organizations who are against this as well. When these bills were introduced in Texas, there was a preachers organization there, excuse me, who rose up and testified against this, along with the other bills in Texas that were, let's hire pastors as counselors and let's have a mandatory school prayer. And he made the same point that Thomas Jefferson did when he was arguing against the religious teachers, but what I talked about at the beginning of the show with SR. And Jefferson's point was a Christian may not agree with all of the teachings that the state sends his tax money to. The state may hire a Christian to do this and give them tax money to have them teach their kids. But maybe I disagree with theologically with that preacher, with that school, with that church. So yes, if you're a good thinking Christian person who cares about the point of the Jesus story, you should be against this, because it's going to force governments to pick a standard official version of Christianity just by picking which 10 commandments or which Bible's in the classroom. And that for other Christians should make everybody very nervous, not to mention the rest of us who are not Christian. So those are my feedback.
And just for all the people out there that want to always be telling us non-believers to read our fucking Bibles, you might want to read your Bible on that. Something about rendering unto Caesar what is Caesar's and shit, keeping the government and the religion separate. But hey, Chris.
Well, also Jesus had no kingdom on earth either.
That's a good one too. That's another good. Yeah. They seem to forget that in the whole, blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek thing.
It's easier for a what is it, a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to go to heaven. But they really forget that one.
Yeah. Boy, do they. But hey, Chris, stay in touch with us.
Keep us informed.
Man. Yeah, let us know how this is going. And hey, I don't know if you ever make it down to Middle Tennessee, man, hit us up. So thank you so much. And it was, Tennessee is kind of rough, but you know what? I'm gonna drop you like a hot potato, man. Thank you so much. Right. I appreciate you for hanging with us. And telling us about some good stuff that is coming up. But you know what? We had a great show, and I want to bring on our wonderful backup host. Kelly is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate you. Not everybody always does the right thing from the beginning, but the people who admit that they were wrong and make amends, right? Make recompense. That is what we appreciate. And that's why we are so happy that you agree with us here on the on AXP that, those other shows are just gross.
I saw the light.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
I saw the light.
I greatly, greatly appreciate that. And let me read these last few super chats because we have some freaking good ones. This one from Connor K9, $20 saying, Kelly told me that for his birthday, he wants to rename the crew cam to the Gooner cam. Somehow this fell out of his pocket. And as Confucius said, man with hole in pocket feel cocky all day. That's pretty good. That's pretty good one.
What he did there.
I didn't know. That's a good one. Carlos Rauer, a member for 6 months, send in 100 Argentine pesos. Thank you so much, saying, let's hang out in Discord, people. Yes. Right after this is over, we are going to be hanging out in the Discord, chatting it up, having a good freaking time. We also have $4.99 from Poor Claire saying, God breaks rules he gives us, but never said rules were for him too. And what if our morality is a function of our universe and can't apply to outside?
You know what?
Not a bad question. Claire would be a good call. You should call us, Claire.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Claire,
you should call us.
I think you're asking excellent questions. I think you would be a great caller. We are very nice people. We only get a little upset when people don't engage, and you are engaging very well.
Yeah, and I think you're being fair with stuff too. Also, you can come into the Discord if you show up in the Discord here in just a second. In Discord. I know the links in the chat and the description and all that. We will gladly answer that. I'll just say real quick though, if that's the case, if God gives us rules, but they're not for him, just know that that is in the understanding of morality called divine command theory. And I think it is one of the most atrocious ways to think about morality. The reason that it becomes good is simply because God is telling you to do it on threat of punishment. That is a horrible way to behave, in my opinion.
SR's right. Because he said so.
Yeah, that's it. That's how we're getting close to the end, and that's all we got. So we do have one more super chat, $10 freaking from Miranda Rensberger, been a member for 1 year, saying, could SR say the inappropriate thing in Parcel Tongue? So I don't know parcel tongue well enough. I don't. I will one day learn it. And I'm thinking, look, here's what I'm thinking, you guys. Okay.
Oh, that's like now you've got me thinking, Klingon is now a full language that you can speak and all that stuff, right? Right.
I could definitely say it.
You're filling my head with dread images of fans creating a parcel tongue language and just walking around to each other all day and actually communicating. It would just drive me insane. So please don't give anybody ideas.
Okay, I won't. Look, I'll just say, guys, every freaking Sunday, 4:30 p.m. Central, we are hanging out here. We are having great times. We're going right to the Discord after this. And get it in the comments below. Name an inappropriate time to claim God's in control. You know what? I'm just going to do it. I don't give a shit. The crew is bribed anyway.
Oh, man. Come on. This is the Goon Squad. Oh. Everybody witness this. Rise up and resist. We'll take this standing. We'll take it lying down. Crap.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.